Hey guys, it's Herman for this week of Big Brother 20, episodes 24 through 26. And as I kind of expected, this was another very mediocre week. There really wasn't a lot going on that I was that invested in. There was some really good gameplay going on from the level 6 side of the house, but again, that's just been the constant for this entire season. So there's really nothing that special about this week overall. It really just, lowered any sort of hope that I had in the Faute / the Hive Alliance, whatever you really want to call them. They honestly are probably some of the dumbest people to ever play this game, and they are falling right under level 6's trap. I really don't know how exactly they're doing it and how they're not thinking logically, but we're just going to get into it right now because, like I said, there is not a ton to talk about that went down this week. So I'm just going to get into it, guys. Of course, we do have the HOH comp that happened, and Fessy does end up winning this HOH, and I was kind of curious to see what he was really going to do. This was the exact wrong time, I think, for him to win, though. I don't think he needed this at all. Haleigh had just won HOH, and sure, she got one of her closest allies, but the second that Fessy won, I just knew for a fact that that was not a good idea. He was, like, neck and neck with Scottie. Like, Scottie was very close to winning, and Fessy ended up beating him there, but Fessy, right off the bat, is already making completely the wrong decision. What he should have thought of is to put up someone like Angela or, say, Kaycee, get one of them out, and I think that's what he should have done there. The problem is, Fessy is, again, completely confused as to what's actually going on in the house. And this has been his problem, I think, the entire season. It's not that Fessy is necessarily a bad player. It's that he is, as Zingbon called him, a moron. He really is. I mean, he doesn't seem to think through much of anything. The only thing he seems focused on is his relationship with Haleigh, and that could not be more true than the way things do play out this week. I mean, that is evident enough with what really, where Fessy's mindset really is, but very quickly he kind of abandons this plan, and here's the thing that really does piss me off. Haleigh knew that, and this is not something we saw on the show, but Haleigh figured out that Brett was part of an alliance with Kaycee, Angela, and Tyler. Of course, they don't know what that alliance is called or anything like that, but she knew very well, and for some reason, she chose to do nothing about it. Why? I have no idea. I really don't understand what her reasoning is here. I guess it's because Brett is kind of playing both sides, and she wants Brett to remain safe for that reason, but I don't really understand it because Brett did not vote with them. It was pretty obvious that Brett didn't vote with them. There was only one person that voted for Rockstar, and it wasn't Brett, and the fact that Haleigh just shut this down immediately, I really don't understand at all. I have liked Haleigh up to this point, but these last 3 weeks, she's honestly really been frustrating me. I really don't know where she's gone wrong, but she seems to, all of her reads seem to be right, but for some reason, she just doesn't do anything about it. Like, I'm not even going to say that she doesn't know what's going on in the house, because she clearly does. She just, for some reason, doesn't want to do anything, and I don't really understand why that is. But, of course, then we get to the most frustrating thing about this week, which all of that really does come from JC, who, I'm not gonna lie, actually really impressed me this week. Now, I'm not the hugest JC fan. I think he is an alright player. I think he, a lot of his reads are very much off. He doesn't know about the level 6 alliance, but he is doing a good job at playing both sides of the house, and you can tell that he does have some sort of larger plan up his sleeve, and I think this week very much to show that when basically he uses this week to try to throw a wrench into Fessy's game and to really sabotage his HOH in a way that, I think even the hacker couldn't really do. Like, you would think that there still was a hacker in the house because JC is basically the reason why things do play out the way that they do this week. Because basically he gets this information from Scottie that Scottie basically does have feelings for Haleigh, but he decides to go to Fessy and over-dramatize most of it. And Fessy already had Scottie on his radar, mainly because when he was in his HOH room, he asked everyone collectively, who actually actually voted for Rockstar to stay. Scottie said that he did, but then Brett basically stole that from him, and for some reason, Fessy believes Brett over Scottie. Now again, I have no idea why. I really don't get why he thinks Brett, because here's the thing that doesn't make sense. If Brett was on your side, don't you think that he would have participated in those big group meetings you had when it was like you and Scottie and Rockstar? Like, why wouldn't he do that? Why wouldn't he be a part of that? Like, if he really wanted to be with you guys, don't you think he'd be talking strategy with you more? And he's not. So that's the thing that's very confusing. Scottie, on the other hand, has almost been there the entire time. Every single one of these meetings that they've had, he has been a very active participant in. You know, we always see him working with Haleigh or talking to Rockstar or talking to Fessy. Like, he always was very close with them. And the fact that Fessy just believed JC's word here, I just think is insane. And I can't believe that he actually thought that Scottie was, you know, on the wrong side of things and that Scottie wasn't trustworthy. Like, sure, there was the whole thing with Swaggy C, but remember, that was like 5 weeks ago. Why is everyone still so harping on that so much? That's the thing I can't stand about the Hive, is that they get so upset over the most trivial things like a hinky vote, which I don't think they understand what the point of a hinky vote is. The point of a hinky vote is simply just there to increase suspicion and is just there because you want to create some paranoia and things like that. Yes, it does sometimes go places, but the Hive, on the other hand, they have this very deep sort of loathing hatred for it, and I just don't really understand why. Anything that involves some sort of flip, they are completely against, and basically from here on out, Fessy decides that this is basically reunited his desire to get rid of Scottie. He tries to use his information to his advantage. He tells Haleigh about it, and Haleigh as well very much did confuse me here, because while she makes it very clear to Fessy that she didn't want Scottie out, for some reason, that's not enough to convince him otherwise. That's not enough to convince him of other targets. What Haleigh should have done is try to talk to him about Brett. Tell him that I think Brett is working with level 6. You know, obviously she doesn't know the name of the alliance, but I think he's working with Tyler, Kaycee, and Angela, and try to increase the target that was on Scottie and put that onto Brett. You know, try to deflect it off Scottie, and I think she would have done that very well. But again, for some reason, she just did not do that here. She seemed to want Scottie out, but she didn't really do anything to get him to stay, and I just did not really understand that overall. And that, of course, is when we get back to Sam, Sam just continues to really piss me off. Sam this week, look, I understand what she's trying to do. I understand that Sam is very close with level 6 and things like that, but trying to put Haleigh up, I mean, what are you doing? How did you actually think this was going to play out? You actually thought that this was somewhat of a good idea. She tries to convince Scottie to get Fessy to put up Haleigh, and for Haleigh to be the one to leave, and there's like zero way that would actually happen. However, Scottie decides to do a bit of reverse psychology here. He's like, all right, I will go with your, you know, let's backdoor Haleigh plan, but the reason he's doing this is he's doing this as a way to make Sam the target, and for Sam to go, because a lot of people want her gone, a lot of people think she's crazy, and they want her out of this house as soon as possible, and, again, Fessy, for some reason, just sees it as him wanting to target Haleigh, which, again, going with that narrative of him liking Haleigh in a romantic way makes no sense whatsoever. Why would he want to put up Haleigh? Why would he want to go after her? I just don't really understand. I get it that obviously, you know, he was kind of using this as a way to get Sam, to throw Sam under the bus, but again, Fessy is just simply not smart enough to understand that. He couldn't, for some reason, figure out that that's what Scottie was really planning, and it did very much annoy me there. I don't know how someone can be this naive, and someone can be this dumb, and honestly, again, Zingbot said it, he is a moron. Which, with that being said, let's actually get into Zingbot, because unlike last year, I actually really loved the the insults that Zingbot gave to everyone. There were some really good zings there. The problem with last year is that everyone was so unlikable that I thought Zingbot was simply a little too nice, and here he really did not hold back. I mean, he called Angela a robot, which people have been saying pretty much since day one. He called Fessy a moron, as I said. He said that Scottie had this sort of man crush on Brett, which we haven't really seen anything of. I'm sure that's been going on, but it hasn't really been a storyline on the show, so it wasn't really all that funny, and it wasn't all that relevant. I did like what he said to Kaycee, that she ends up saying let's go a lot, because yeah, that's like every other word out of her mouth is let's go, like that's all she really does end up saying, so I thought that was pretty funny. I really loved the one he said about Tyler, how he was like too tan or whatever, and I did think Tyler did a good job of trying to hide his love for Zingbot like he has with most of the show. Tyler does still continue to impress me, and he's still one of the highlights of this season for sure. But the best one, without a doubt, was Sam. He calls Sam crazy. He says that she is incredibly erratic, and again, I would very much agree with that. I mean, Sam just... Everyone clearly does feel that way, and the reason why that was probably the best one out of all of them is because it was the most accurate. Everyone really does want to tell Sam that she's crazy, but she's basically a loose cannon. They don't know what she's going to do, what she's going to say, and they don't want to offend her. So you really don't know. You really can't say anything around Sam, and it's unfortunate because, again, I really do think Sam is a good person to get out right now. I think Sam is someone who they have the numbers if they want to get her out because, hell, she could win HOH and just turn the entire house upside down, and she could target someone, like, if she has any inkling that, like, Tyler or someone like that is going to come after her, she's going to put them up. She will not hesitate, and I do think this would have been a good opportunity to get Sam out. Which, of course, the way the rest of Wednesday does play out was a bit strange because we, for some reason, ended without a veto ceremony, but we'll get into that. It was one of the, like, hide-and-go vetoes. They didn't call it hide-and-go veto this time. It was, like, again, it goes to the whole tech theme that they're trying to do. Brett does end up winning this veto. That's what starts the whole Scottie trying to put up Sam. Of course, it does not work out. Fessy does end up keeping Scottie, end up putting up Kaycee, and again, I just don't know why he had to do this. Like, here's the thing. He knew very well that Scottie liked Haleigh. Why didn't he use this as a way for the two of them to form some sort of a final two? They have a common interest, is that they both really care about Haleigh. They're both extremely loyal towards her. So the three of them should have sat down and be like, okay, we're going to tell everyone that we're going to try to get you out, when in reality, the target is going to be Kaycee, and we're going to do what we can to try to lobby for Kaycee to go and for you to stay. And that's what they really should have done. But again, Fessy is just too dumb to realize that, and that's when I think this really is going to be his downfall in the game. I think he's going to be looking back weeks from now when he's in the jury house or whatever, because he's definitely leaving very soon, and he's probably going to be thinking back at this one decision that he really failed on, and I think that really, like I said, is going to mark his downfall. And then really the only thing to talk about, because like I said, there really wasn't a ton of stuff going on this week, is of course Tyler and Angela. This is a very interesting story because Tyler at this point is very much in the same position as Paul from last season, where he kind of has a final two with everyone. But I think he is being very unjustly compared to Paul, mainly because Paul played a very specific sort of gameplay last season. The difference is this season, yes, Tyler is in an alliance with everyone, but he's not being disingenuous to them. The only people he's being disingenuous towards are Fessy and Haleigh, and they're too dumb to really pick up on that. Everyone else he does genuinely want to work with. Now, it seems like he is the most loyal to Kaycee and to Angela, but Brett and JC, they don't have any sort of hint that he isn't loyal to them. And I'm not saying that he's disloyal, it's just in terms of like the final three, I think that's who he plans on really taking. But the thing that's really working out for Tyler is that he is very good at talking to people. He has a very good social game. He's very honest and open with everyone, especially when they're leaving, and I think he's done a very good job with that. So when Fessy gives him an indication that maybe he wants to link up with him, he decides to use this to his advantage. Him and Angela kind of start this fake Final Four with Fessy and Haleigh, and this could go one or two ways. It could go really well for them, and they have two people who will vote for them every single week, or this will turn out miserably, and someone from either one of those sides is going to get turned on next week, and we'll have to see the way that really does play out. But in the end, Scottie does end up leaving here. It was very disappointing overall, and I really did feel bad for Scottie. You could tell that he knew that what he did was wrong, that maybe he should not have at all, gone on board with Sam's plan. He should have done it in a much different way, but he was doing his best to stay. He was doing what he can to to make sure that he had a fighting chance, and unfortunately, it just backfired in the end. We end the episode with not knowing who the HOH is going to be. We'll get to that next week, but let's just talk about how things are going to play out moving forward. So I know, there wasn't really a lot to talk about going on this week, and again, it's mainly just because Fessy and Haleigh are just not very intelligent at this point. Fessy especially had so many chances to go after other people. He could have gone after Sam. He could have gone after Brett. Hell, Brett even said in the episode that there were tons of times this season where Haleigh and Fessy had plenty of votes to go against level 6 and to make sure that it does not go in their favor. But for some reason, they didn't do that. They have fallen into every single one of their traps, and I truly don't feel there's any way of getting out of this. Like, I really don't feel they have much time left in the game. I think it's going to be... I would not be surprised if this week is Fessy and next week is Haleigh. I really would not be surprised if that happens. Even if either of them win, I genuinely think they're dumb enough to target each other because they're falling into all of their traps, and a lot of that credit, yes, it is due to level 6, but it also is from JC, who JC, I think, is doing a very good job at kind of being this unknown sort of puppet master. Yes, Tyler is the one who is calling most of the shots, but this was pretty much all organized by JC, and I think he's doing a very good job with that, because he really does have Fessy wrapped around his finger at this point. The problem with JC is that he's not really being honest in his DRs. He's suffering the same fate that I think Paul had last season, where if he's in a Final 2 with Tyler, the jury's not going to take this lightly. They're going to see that, hopefully they're going to compare notes. That was one of the biggest problems with the jury last season, is that they never really suspected anything until they went in there. And with JC, he's not being honest with anyone. He told Scottie that he didn't know what happened, and that's obviously not the case. He's the main reason that Scottie is gone. And again, I know people say that jury management, oh, it's just a game or whatever, but jury management is one of, I think, the most essential principles if you want to win. You want to take credit for things, and it's not just about being nice and honest to people. It's about owning up to your game moves and making sure that you have credibility, because if you're being dishonest, then all your credibility is pretty much gone. That's really was Paul's, I think, biggest flaw last season, that he had so much stuff planned out, and sure, there was a lot of negativity and things like that, but he never really took any credit for anything that he did. So because of that, nobody really saw Paul as that much of a threat. Up until the jury, they still... Even though they knew Paul was doing stuff, he never really owned up to it. He never really seemed like he was proud of the work that he was doing. So I do think JC is going to have that same fate, where he's just not being very honest, and he's just not admitting to the big game moves that he did. And I think, like I said, that's ultimately what is going to get him probably in, Tyler or someone's crosshairs, and I just don't think that's going to go very well for him. I think he's very much a pawn at this point, and I don't think he's nearly as powerful as he thinks he is. Again, good work from him for sure, a valiant attempt, but he just did not own up to the fact that he was the one to get Scottie out. So we'll have to see the way things do play out there. Once again, no double eviction next week, but we are going to have a jury buyback for some reason, and I really hope Scottie comes back. I don't care about Bayleigh. I don't care about Rockstar. I want to see Scottie come back. Fessy is probably leaving next week no matter what happens. So unless, because obviously Fessy can't win HOH, so most likely Fessy's going to be the one to go. If he comes back, then fine, but I really do want to see Scottie come back. I want to see him play a very good game, and I want to see him possibly link up with Haleigh and maybe see if they can form some sort of alliance with, like, Brett or someone like that. But again, I think that's just wishful thinking. I don't really think that Haleigh is very focused at this point. If Fessy leaves, maybe that will reignite her, her intellect and her desire to win, but it just doesn't seem like either of them are really thinking through anything at this point, and I do think, like I said, that is going to be their biggest downfall in the game. Then, of course, there's Sam, Sam is very much on borrowed time. I think she is basically just a liability for them at this point. If they do get rid of her, that's just one less number that they have. So I do think Sam's going to stick around for maybe a long time, but if she continues to have this erratic sort of attitude that she's had these last 2 weeks, I don't think things are really going to go very well for her, and again, I don't really think she's going to last for that much longer, but that's really all I have to say for this week. I'm sorry, there really was not a lot that went down here. It was a very uneventful week overall. I really did feel bad for Scottie. I don't know why Fessy and Haleigh just won't think of who the actual target is. Again, I must remind you, Haleigh knew that Brett was a part of this four-person alliance with Kaycee, Angela, and Tyler, but for some reason she chose to do nothing about it, and I just don't really understand why. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I think the season is just kind of, it is going a bit downhill for me, but I still am enjoying it. Like, I'm not going to say I'm disliking it or anything. It's just compared to the first few weeks, things are starting to get a bit more predictable, and I am hoping that things do not exactly go the way we think they're going to play out, because that'd just be a lot more interesting overall, but I doubt that's going to happen. I think Fessy and Haleigh just don't really have much more of a life in terms of this game, but that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.